When a young man discovers he has a bizarre power, he has no idea the trouble that this extraordinary ability will bring to him. And then we look at the story of a young family just living life, having fun, making the best of what the world has to offer. But what happens when this family comes face to face with the notorious Ditch Witch and find out that some spirits may have human help? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. I wonder how many of you guys are going to go see the Back Rooms movie coming out this weekend. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. I don't know if it's going to come to town where I'm at. Unfortunately, I still haven't been able to see Curry Barker's movie Obsession. It's a huge hit. They're saying it might be the most profitable movie of the year. And longtime listeners of Dead Rabbit Radio know we do love Curry Barker, so I'm very happy to hear that. I'm hoping the Back Rooms is also a big hit. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm still trying to watch Faces of Death, which is funny because people go, "What'd you do this week?" And I was like, "Oh, I was going to watch Faces of Death, but they're charging $20 on Amazon." And they're like, "Well, that's not a problem. That's good. They should charge $1 million. Nobody should watch that." No, not the original Faces of Death, the recent horror movie. Unfortunately, I live in people talk about a food desert, towns that don't have a lot of shopping marts, a lot of like Kmarts and stuff like that. You can't buy food. Well, I live in a horror desert. They don't show a lot of horror movies around here, unfortunately. Passenger. They are showing Passenger, but that's too spooky. I won't go see that. Too spooky, because I know I'd be the only one in the theater, and I can't watch a movie that spooky all alone in a theater. But someone who can, someone who looks forward to it, someone who enjoys the scariest movies ever, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for the terrific trio of Robert, Maria, and Robert. Woohoo! Yeah! They're running on into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Robert, Maria, and Robert. It's a family. Robert's the dad, Maria's the mom, and then they have a son named Robert. They came and saw me at the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside, Oregon recently. It was really awesome. They made a little road trip out of it. It was really cool to meet them. And the reason why they are the pilots, the guests of honor this episode, is while I met them, while we were talking, they told me a truly terrifying story, one that I still can't really wrap my head around, and honestly, neither can they. They don't understand what any of it means. Well, separately, it's two stories that have a probably concise answer, but when they're combined, it's really puzzling, and we're going to cover that story. This is our user-submitted week, people who sent us stories, listener-submitted story week, whatever I called it. Anyways, it was supposed to be 1 week. It's been stretched out into 3, but Robert, Marie, and Robert, this is why. You're like, wait a second, why are they the guests? Is it because they met you? Is it because they had a scary story? I'm confused. Yeah, me too. If only I had Faces of Death to watch, that would answer all of my questions. Robert, Maria, and Robert, for whatever reason, you're going to be our captains, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through the Patreon or the merch store or coming to the Oregon Ghost Conference, it's totally fine. It really, really is. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Okay, Robert, Maria, and Robert. Let's go ahead and toss you guys keys to the... this is a new vehicle. No, I'm sure I've used it. I mean, we're like episode 1600. I'm sure at some point it's popped up. Everyone climb on board the Bunny Bus as Robert, Maria, and Robert drive us out of Dead Rabbit Radio Command all the way out to Maryland. All aboard. They don't say that on a bus. Say that on a boat. Oh, okay, whatever the bus driver says. Hurry up, get on. Exact change only, please. Is it Star Trek? No, it's the door shutting. Come on, man, cut me some slack. The bus drives away. It's funny, I spent a lot of time on a bus. I used to not have a car I spent most of my life without having a car than actually having a car, so I rode the bus all the time. I think I told you that story when I was picking up girls on buses, and you might find this shocking. You might go, wow, I don't know if I believe you, Jason. When you pick up a girl on a bus, when you meet a girl on a public city bus and go out on a date with her, they're always insane. They're always insane. You could argue that if they weren't insane, they probably have a car or have access to one. But, obviously I didn't. Like, Jason, you're not the poster child for sanity. She's probably telling people, man, this guy hit on me on a bus once. I went out with him. Turned out he was insane. Yeah, I used to pick up girls on buses, and I stopped after that one girl, the whole Harry Potter incident. I think I've talked about that before on the show. She was insane. And finally, I go, okay, this is the 9th or 10th time I've hit on a woman on a bus, successfully got her number, went out on a date with her, and she turned out to be a total lunatic. I'm going to stop doing that. But I did spend a lot of time on buses. I should know what they sound like. Maybe I'll refine that vehicle noise. We're headed all the way up to Maryland. Specifically, we're headed out to Frederick, Maryland. And even more specific than that, we're headed to an apartment on North Market and East 2nd Street. Now, I looked this up on Google Maps, and it does appear that there's still apartment spaces above this intersection. There's stores, and then there's apartments above them. If you're local to Frederick, Maryland, you might be able to check this story out. Will the magic work for you? We don't know. Let's take a look at this crazy story. So, we go to this apartment in this area in Frederick, Maryland, and luckily I have a key. I have a key from the landlord. I met his daughter on a bus. We went out a couple times. She turned out to be a total lunatic. But while she was being insane, I was able to sneak into her dad's house and steal this key, this landlord's key, and I put it in the lock. We walk into this apartment, and we're looking around. I go, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? You go, it's an apartment. It has like a living room and a couch, and look around. Tell me if you notice anything weird. And you're kind of like looking around. Oh, it's a bedroom. Oh, it's a closet. Oh, it's a kitchen. And I go, why don't you join me in the bathroom? That's where the real madness begins, which is something I say every time I visit the bathroom. You very nervously follow me into the bathroom, and I shut the door. I sit down on the toilet, and I go, notice anything weird? Kind of. It's weird that I trusted you enough to be in a locked bathroom with you. And I go, yeah, that is weird. But also, what if I told you that this bathroom in Frederick, Maryland, in an apartment on North Market Street and East 2nd Street, actually is a portal to a totally different bathroom? You're like, what? I go, yeah, I know, it's pretty mind-bending, isn't it? What if I told you that I'm not just sitting on any toilet, I'm sitting on a quantum toilet? And it is possible that when you open that bathroom door, we will no longer be in an apartment on North Market Street and East 2nd Street in Frederick, Maryland. We will be in a different apartment. Would you be brave enough to open that door? Like, if it will end this conversation that I'm having with an adult man sitting on a toilet, yes, I will be brave enough. This is a really weird story. This guy posted this story online. We're going to call him Thomas. He didn't give his real name. He lived in this apartment on North Market Street and East 2nd Street. And he says when he got into this apartment, he realized, it was a nice little place, but he realized the bathroom of this apartment was an exact copy of a bathroom in an apartment he used to live in. Exactly the same. He said the layout was the same. Shower, sink, toilet, all in the exact same place. But it wasn't just that, that's kind of standard stuff. He said the walls were painted the same color. The floor tiling was the exact same design. Every single piece of it was exactly the same as a previous apartment bathroom he lived in. And it struck him as odd right away. He goes, that's weird. But you go, well, they probably were built at the same time, have the same type of layout. He didn't really think too much of it. He just thought it was quirky. So he's living in this apartment for a while, and he's reading a book about time travel. And Thomas says, I'm a real, he doesn't use the term deep thinker, but he goes, when I read a book, I can really, really get into it. So even when I'm not reading it, I'm constantly thinking about the concepts of the book. Thomas was reading a book about time travel. It was really just blowing his mind, the whole concept of it. And he's thinking outside the box. He goes, well, if time travel, if it's possible, is it possible? What other laws of the universe could be broken? Is there a God? And if there's a God, does his mere existence destroy the laws of reality? Could God create a law of physics that not even he can overcome? He's thinking all of this stuff, right? Deep in thought. He's reading the book, he's thinking, he's reading the book, he's thinking. He's just kind of a background process. Well, one day, while he's reading this book, he's taking a shower in the bathroom of his apartment. And again, he's kind of in this deep thought state about the nature of reality. And we all know that, like, taking a shower can relax you to a point that you can have those eureka moments. Your body is so just still and calm. Sometimes that's when you have that breakthrough. He's in the shower, he's thinking about all this stuff, then all of a sudden a thought pops in his head. You're in a different apartment. You're in your old apartment. You're in the bathroom of your old apartment. It just popped in his head. And he thought, well, that's weird. Like, obviously I'm not. I'm in my new apartment. The bathroom is exactly the same. But that thought jumped in his head. It wasn't a conscious thought. It slipped in through the relaxation and the deep, deep thinking he was doing already about the nature of reality. I am no longer in my new apartment. I'm back in my old apartment. But, he just goes on continuing his showering and thinking about the universe. Well, about 10 to 15 minutes go by. He's taking a long shower. That's a long shower. And he's taking this long shower, and then all of a sudden, he hears... Let me back up here for a second. Thomas lived alone. Thomas had no roommates. He lived in this apartment all by himself. Now back to the story. Thomas is taking this incredibly long shower when all of a sudden he hears the bathroom doorknob start to jiggle. What? Someone disagreeing with him? Is the Smurf disagreeing with him? No, it's the sound, the unmistakable sound. Each doorknob sounds different, but I think we're familiar with how the doorknobs sound in our own houses. It's the unmistakable sound of someone trying to open the bathroom door. And Thomas just freezes there. He doesn't know who would be on the other side of his bathroom door, but someone's trying to get in. And while he's kind of processing this, he hears someone say from outside the bathroom, "Who's in there?" Thomas is terrified, as we all would be in this moment. So he pulls back the shower curtain. Right? I mean, like, what would you do in this situation? It's terrifying. Thomas pulls back the shower curtain because he's like, who the hell is outside of my apartment right now? He pulls back the shower curtain and he's thinking, what am I going to do next? And that's when he realizes something. He is no longer in his bathroom on North Market Street and East 2nd Street. He is indeed taking a shower in his old bathroom. The bathroom that looked exactly the same as the bathroom that he moved into. He realized that thought he had earlier, oh, I'm in my old apartment, wasn't just a passing thought, it was almost a warning. He was indeed in the old bathroom. And he said two things struck him right out. I mean, talk about how shocking that would be. Right, you've teleported to a previous bathroom. He said two things I realized right off the bat. Well, three. There's a man outside of the door. He's trying to get in. I'm obviously in my old apartment. Somebody else must be living here. I have to solve that problem. But he also said, he goes, when I opened the shower curtain, I realized two things. I knew I was in my old bathroom. And the reason why I knew it immediately, because remember, they looked exactly the same, was he goes, there was actually a difference that I had completely forgotten to this point. I thought both bathrooms looked exactly the same, but there was a difference. The old bathroom had a double cabinet, and the new bathroom did not have such a cabinet. So they weren't exact matches. When he opened the shower curtain and he saw that double cabinet, he goes, oh my God, I'm in my old apartment. Because there was that difference that he'd forgotten till now. The other reason why he knew he was in his old apartment was that all the toiletries were different. It wasn't his razor, it wasn't his toothbrush, it wasn't his... What do other people... That's all I have in my bathroom. I have a razor and a toothbrush. I keep my deodorant in my kitchen. He noticed the toiletries were not his, they were somebody else's. Because you could actually argue in a moment, maybe the past few months, if not few years of his life were just a dream and he actually never moved out of this apartment. If the toiletries were the same, which would be mind-bending enough. But the fact that the toiletries were different told him this was his old apartment bathroom, but someone else had moved in. And that somebody else is outside now banging on the bathroom door. Who's in there? Who's in there taking a shower? Thomas just closes the shower curtain. There's not much you can do, right? You're kind of stuck. Bathrooms are notorious for being the hardest place to escape from. There's only one entrance, one exit, unless you can squeeze through a 3x5 window, unless you actually are a Smurf and can sneak out. Thomas closes the shower curtain and goes, "Oh, okay, well, I guess my questions about the nature of reality have been answered. Teleportation's possible." He said, "I closed the shower curtain and then I closed my eyes and I kept thinking over and over again, back home, back home, back home, back home." And as he's thinking that, someone is pounding, "Hey, dude, who's in my shower? Who's in there?" And then all of a sudden, the banging stopped. The yelling stopped. Thomas opened his eyes, slowly pulled back the shower curtain. I didn't actually say slowly. I'm making it more spooky. Maybe he ripped it off. He goes, "I opened the shower curtain and there was no double cabinet. All my toiletries were there. That should be there." He said, at that point, this is really interesting because I didn't think I would do this. This is fascinating. This is what really makes me think this story is authentic, because I'd kind of not even thought this would be something to do. He goes, "I jumped out of the shower. I didn't even dry off." Now I do that. I never dry off. I just walk around until all the water's gone. Not that part. But he goes, "What I did was I jumped out of the shower. I didn't dry off. And I opened the bathroom door. No one was there." He then proceeded to throw on a pair of shorts and walk all over his apartment looking to see if there was an intruder. He even walked to the front door and looked through the peephole to see if he could see someone leaving his property. And there was no one there. And the reason why that's interesting is because that's a very logical thing. In this moment, he was still thinking, maybe this was an intruder. Maybe someone had broken into my apartment and I thought I had been teleported back. That would actually be the more rational answer. It'd be scary. Someone broke into his apartment and that's why you went and looked through the peephole. Because I believe in the paranormal, I don't think I would ever assume that someone was in my apartment. I would go, "Oh my God, I just teleported between bathrooms." Because that's what happened, right? That's what happened. He started still thinking. He checked the whole place just to be sure. Now, if there was some hobo walking around his apartment, then he would know that he didn't teleport. It's just that he lives in a unsafe part of town and he needs a new lock. Even looking through the peephole to see if he could see anyone outside, he again was checking, in a way maybe even hoping it would be more comforting to believe that someone had broken in your house rather than to think that you could teleport between apartments. It's an interesting story. And the reason why I said, there's so many different ways you can look at it. One, there's probably a guy across town who's been telling people ever since this story happened, because it happened years ago, saying, "You won't believe it. One day I was sitting at home, I lived by myself, and then all of a sudden I heard my shower turn on. Someone was using my shower in the middle of the day. And I went and I was banging on the door. The bathroom door was locked. Banging on the door, yelling, 'Who's in there? Who's in there? Who's in there?' And then as soon as it started, it stopped. The water just stopped. The bathroom door was unlocked. I walked in. And I clearly heard the shower running, but when I walked in, not even the tub was wet. The floor of the shower was not wet. Or was it? Again, right there, did Thomas teleport into an active shower? Was the water also teleported? And then all of it was teleported out? Or did this guy have a wet bathtub? What's trippier, right? To hear, if you just heard the sound of a shower and your door was locked and you finally got into your bathtub and there was no water anywhere, you would go, maybe I was just hearing my neighbor take a shower. If you heard the sound of a shower, then you walked in your bathroom and the tub's wet, but the shower's not running, that would be even trippier, because then you would know that something was going on in your own shower. But anyway, so you have the story of the guy on the other side who would never be able to explain why he heard someone taking a shower in the middle of the day once, but no one was in there. Then you have the unease it would give Thomas, because you would think, is the universe that fragile that you could literally teleport from bathroom to bathroom simply by taking a shower and kind of losing yourself in thought? There's something very disconcerting about that. We love the paranormal. We love these stories of portals and craziness and the weirdness of the universe. But it can leave a lasting mark. I mean, think about it. A kid who sees something spooky, might even just be a spooky movie, for years, if not for a lifetime, may have a fear of the dark, or a fear of something under their bed, or the fear of a monster down the hallway. But imagine if it was completely reality breaking. Imagine if you found yourself getting into a car one day, you're driving down the road, and then when you got out of that car, it was a different make and model, it was a different color. The driver was somebody different, it was a different friend. You remember getting in a car with June, but when you guys pulled up to the mall, you got out of the car and Mark was the driver. It would twist reality so much for that person. I made that story up. I don't think I've ever come across a story like that. It's pretty crazy. But, we'd classify it as quantum immortality. We would classify it as multiversal shenanigans. But to the person experiencing that, they would have to wonder, if I walk through this door, will I end up in a different reality? Will I be in a different universe? Will I teleport to a different bathroom? It would make you feel very uneasy. You would wonder if reality is that fragile, could you ever let your mind wander again? Now, this was a unique situation. I think it's possible that Thomas, because remember, the two bathrooms were 99% the same, and Thomas had lived in both places. I don't know if you or I, if we went there to take a shower, we would teleport to the old bathroom. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe these bathrooms are so identical that they, on a quantum level, they're the same. It's some sort of gateway. Maybe this could only happen to Thomas because he lived in both places. Maybe this could only happen in that moment because he was so deep in thought about the nature of reality, and he had visited both places. It could have been something that could have only happened to him, or it could be a quirk between these two apartments. For whatever reason, they are connected on a metaphysical level. Now, if you had made me guess what it was, I would say Thomas is the only one who could experience it. But who knows? Robert, Maria, and Robert, let's go. Robert, Maria, and Robert, let's go ahead and toss you all keys to the world-famous Carpenter Copter we're leaving behind Maryland. Why don't you fly us all the way out to New Mexico? I gotta be honest, I don't know the reason why I was chuckling. I don't know how abrupt there was an edit there. You're like, what? You were just talking about Thomas in the bathroom, and then it seemed to go to the ending. Yeah, I got distracted. I ended up doing like a 7-minute segment hooking up with gay guys. Not me, but how in public restrooms, that's a big thing, having sex with other men, and the secret code, tapping your foot in the bathroom stall. It just went on and on and on. And I'm sure Robert and his family were over the moon about, they're like, this again. So anyways, I cut it all out. Maybe I'll put it in a bonus episode. You're in a bathroom right now. You're like, oh no, I need to know the code. I think I accidentally activated it. A bunch of men are trying to have sex with me in a stall. Maybe I'll put it in a bonus episode or something. It didn't need to be in this one, so I think there might just be an abrupt cut. So sorry if that's the case. We're headed out to New Mexico. It's the summer of 2017. And this was a story that was personally told to me by Robert, Maria, and Robert. Very, very interesting tale. Let's take a look at this thing. We're going to start off. It's real interesting because there's almost two narratives going on at the same time. We're going to start off with the point of view of Robert the son. During the summer of 2017, Robert was unemployed at the time. So he, stayed up late, just kind of hung out. Pretty chill, right? Wouldn't that be nice? I mean, it's also nice to make money, but just thinking about sitting at home playing video games all day long, doing whatever, pretty awesome. But anyways, Robert's, up late at night, just kind of doing guy stuff. Well, one night he's awake, and he sees a truck that he's never seen in the neighborhood before. He watches this truck drive down the street of their neighborhood, and then drive into the driveway of their neighbor, who we will call Chris. Drives into Chris's driveway. And he said that the truck would drive just far enough down this driveway that Robert could no longer see it. But he would see the lights go off in the car. The headlights shut off, the car shuts down. Robert said the truck would be there till around 2 or 3 in the morning, and then it would pull out of the driveway and head off. Now, Robert didn't really think much of it at the time. He obviously noticed it. And the fact that this didn't just happen once, it happened multiple times, he was curious in a way because he'd never seen that truck before. He didn't know why they would be there, but maybe they're visiting Chris. Maybe they're visiting the neighbor. He doesn't know. Robert doesn't know, right? Chris, he said, is a real big guy, too. He's 6'4", 290 pounds. Definitely not someone you'd want to mess with. If you were pulling into someone's driveway, maybe someone a little smaller, a little shorter. Papa Smurf's driveway. Chris was a good friend of the family, too, of Robert's family. They knew each other well. But, again, nothing really raised Robert's alarm because of this. It was just something he noted, and something that he would think about even more once the events of this story fully take place. Now, Chris came to learn that this car did not belong to friends of his neighbor. In fact, they didn't want the car there. At one point, Chris's wife came out of her house and approached the car and said, "You guys need to leave. Why are you guys always pulling into our driveway? What's going on?" But the truck remained. Didn't even pull away when the wife was yelling at him. It would eventually leave in the early morning, but would return the next night. I don't know how long the driveways are, too. I assume it's not just a typical driveway. That's like a car-length driveway. I'm assuming that, it's kind of like a long, winding driveway. But anyways, point is they weren't welcome there. And Robert, he thinks it's odd. He thinks it's even more odd when he realizes it's not a friend or associate of his neighbor. But it's not until the story, all of the aspects of the story resolve, when the meaning and the occupants of the car, or the truck, to be more specific, the automobile, become more mysterious, if not downright sinister. Now let's switch to the other point of view. So you have Robert the son. He has a brother who we don't have a name for. He has no point in this story. I also didn't meet him, so I'm sure he exists, and he's probably a nice guy, but he wasn't a witness to this story. We have Robert, and then his father Robert and his mother Maria. This second part of the story takes place from their point of view. One night, Robert and Maria were hanging out in their bedroom when all of a sudden, they heard a bizarre noise in their backyard. It's the sound of their dogs going nuts in the backyard. Now, they have these dogs, so they have to lock them up in a kennel at night, because there's a bunch of coyotes in the area. And they don't want the dogs fighting the coyotes. I imagine a good group of dogs could decimate a coyote pack, would be my guess. But I also once said that I could fight a raccoon, and it turns out no human can, and no human ever has. I never mentioned this, I don't know if there's any meaning to this, but after I recorded that episode where I was talking about fighting a raccoon, there must just be a coincidence, but the video game Battlefield 6, which is the only video game I play 2-3 hours a night, even more on the weekends. I did that episode about fighting a raccoon, whether or not I could take one. Maybe a couple weeks after that, Battlefield 6 released a new sticker for weapons, a weapon sticker that's a picture of a raccoon, and it says, "Fight me, coward." And I go, I wonder if whoever designed that sticker has listened to the podcast and knows how much I play Battlefield 6. I run that sticker on all of my guns. I imagine some local dogs could just decimate coyotes. But still, even if that's true, you don't want your dogs out there constantly eating raw coyote meat. It's probably full of rabies and worms. Plus, I mean, even though I think the dogs could win a coyote fight, the massive vet bills that you would have to constantly pay for all the injuries, even though your dog won, it's still missing a bunch of fur and flesh. It's probably just easier and cheaper to put them in a kennel at night. And the dogs would often bark late at night. Probably because they want to fight the raccoons. They don't want to be cowards. They want to decimate the coyote population. They're not babies. But this time it was different. Maria and Robert said, we heard the dogs going crazy. They're dogs. They bark at everything. But there was something different about them. The noises they were making were almost panicked. It was just like this frenzy. Panic might not be the right word, but they're just losing it. They don't normally bark like this. It's like there's something new in the yard. Maybe they are scared of it. Maybe they're threatened by it way more than they're ever threatened by a coyote. So, Robert and Maria hear these dogs barking all the time. They don't really, you just basically stop looking out the window. But on this night, the noises they were making were so odd. Robert and Maria, Mom and Dad, grab a flashlight to look outside and see what could be causing this. And the way their property sits is they have a backyard. Chris is the neighbor. But they have this backyard, and they have a kennel with the dogs in it, and then there's this ditch that runs through. I don't know if it's the border of the backyard. I don't know if it's through their backyard, and then there's a fence on the other side. I'm not exactly for sure of the layout, but there is a ditch there. A long-running ditch. Anyways, Robert and Maria hear these dogs freaking out, and they are afraid themselves because they haven't heard their dogs make noises like this before. So they're laying on the floor of their bedroom, and they're peeking out through the window, through the blinds or the curtains, whichever they have, and they're shining the flashlight to see if they could see what could be causing this. Robert and Maria aren't afraid of coyotes. They're not afraid that a coyote might see them and attack them. They think there must be something else out there because of the way that these dogs are barking. So it is interesting that they had this level of fear before even seeing anything. They were down on the ground on the floor, looking out the window, peeping out the window, or peeking would be a better term for it with a flashlight. Looking out the backyard, they see something that makes them realize immediately this must be why our dogs are freaking out. This would send any animal into a frenzy of fear. They saw a large white figure, or large white shape might be more apt. Because it looked like it was somebody wearing a white sheet. You have kind of like that billowing shape to it. It's not a lean human walking through the backyard. It's this, whatever it is, right? They don't know what it is, but it looks like if you took someone and threw a white sheet over them and they were walking through your backyard. But this was no boy walking around for Halloween. It is summertime, but it's not like it was a mistake. It's not like some guy just threw a literal blanket over him and started walking through the backyard. This figure was the size of a bear. This massive, hulking figure underneath a billowing white cloth. It's just walking through their backyard. The dog's panicked barking grows louder and more shrill as this entity continues to walk through their backyard until it reaches the ditch. At that point, this creature got down on all fours and in a single leap leapt over the ditch and disappeared into the night. How big was the ditch? I don't know, right? Listen, if it was like a 2-inch ditch, I could leap over that. But imagine it's a bigger ditch. How big is the ditch? It makes a big difference. If something leaps over something small, that's not really supernatural. But it's a ditch, right? Okay, so maybe... Well, here's the thing. Is this supernatural? That would be our first question. It's definitely odd. It can definitely jump over a ditch that a normal person could, and that's not impressive, or jumped over a large ditch, and that's pretty impressive. However, I would say even a small ditch, could you jump on all fours? While wearing a white sheet and having dogs scream in your ear? This really scared Robert and Maria. At the very least, like the previous story, at the very least there was an intruder in their backyard. At the very least there was someone in their backyard walking around in disguise. And at the very most, this was something unearthly. A couple days after that, Chris, the neighbor, comes over to talk to Robert, the dad. Hey, Robert, what's up, man? Hey, Chris, how's it going? Been better. Been better days. I was wondering if I could, borrow something from you. Sure, Chris, yeah, what do you need? Do you have any holy water? Apparently Robert does. Apparently Robert, the dad, has holy water. I don't even have holy water. I read the story and I go, I probably should get some. Chris came over and asked Robert for some holy water, and Robert goes, why? I mean, sure, let me get it. It's right next to the flour and the sugar. It's right over here. Robert goes, yeah, I can get you some holy water, but why? And Chris goes, well, actually, to be fair, I don't know if Robert actually has holy water. He didn't say he would get it for him. I'm adding that stuff in my head. But I wouldn't ask one of my neighbors for holy water unless I thought they actually had it. I'm curious as if that's something people in the area know Robert has. But anyways, Chris says, hey, Robert, can I borrow some holy water? And Robert goes, why? What's going on? And Chris goes, well, this is going to sound super weird. The other night, though, late at night, I heard something in the living room. It's some weird noises. I don't know what it is. And right when I got out of bed and I walked out of the bedroom, your dogs started losing it. I heard your dogs like totally freaking out. They were barking, and they bark all the time. They constantly keep me up. Just let them kill the coyotes and put the whole area at peace. I've heard the dogs bark before, but man, your dogs are going nuts. They were making all sorts of weird noises. But I was like, whatever, that's my neighbor's problem. I'm not going to worry about that. Right now I got to figure out what's going on in my living room. Where these weird noises are coming from. So I walked into the living room, and standing there was my daughter, who we will call Trisha. She's about 3 or 4 years old. Chris goes, I got to the living room. Trisha was standing in the living room, and I asked her, what are you doing, honey? Why are you out of bed? What are you doing? And Trisha said, Daddy, Auntie wants me to let her in. Auntie said to let her in the house. I gotta unlock the front door and let her in. Okay, well, honey, your auntie isn't here, I don't think, right? He's all looking around. Has she been using her bathroom lately? Is she teleported? Honey, who are you talking about? My auntie, Daddy, my auntie. She came to the window and she said she's cold and to let her in. But something was wrong, Daddy. Something was... Okay, I am adding dialogue to this part, but the main stuff is real. I don't know if she talked like that. I don't know how good her grammar was, but basically, she says, Auntie was out the window, and she had yaw-yaws on her eyes. She had yaw-yaws. And which is a kind of a slang term for a wound, like a cut, like how some people will say boo-boo. Oh, you got a boo-boo on your knee? Yaw-yaw is another term for that. She had yaw-yaws on her eyes. She was all dressed in white, and she had yaw-yaws on her eyes. And she said, let me in, it's so cold. So cold. And Chris woke up in the middle of the night. He's like, what? Here's the thing. On the one hand, you think, oh, maybe my daughter had a nightmare. Like, she woke up and saw a girl with yaw-yaws on her eyes. Bloody eyes, right? My daughter's telling me about bloody eyes, saying that her auntie's at the door. And this thing had said, I'm your auntie, to Trisha. Let me in, it's so cold outside. So it's not like it was her actual aunt. It wasn't Aunt Gladys passing through who had yaw-yaws on her eyes. Chris is hearing this story, and while most of the time I think a parent would just say, oh, honey, you're having a bad dream, let's go back to bed, Chris remembered when he got up to walk out to the living room to find out what the noise was. The noise was his daughter trying to unlock the front door. That was the noise he was hearing out there. Luckily, it woke him up. But when he got up out of bed and left the bedroom to see what was going on in the living room, he heard Robert's dogs losing it next door. So he thought, oh my God, there's actually someone outside my house. So he actually pushed the couch in front of the front door so Trisha couldn't try to open it again. He probably would have written it off as a nightmare had he not heard the dogs barking. Barking in a way that it seemed like they were seeing something that was new to them, that was freaking him out. It was then that he realized there probably is somebody out there. Whether or not it was a ghost or whether or not it was an auntie, a real auntie or someone posing as an auntie or whatever, he's thinking something's actually outside my house, and he treated it seriously. After that night, so all that happened, right? They finally got all the pieces put together. Chris told the family about the auntie with the yah-yahs visiting their house, trying to get in or trying to get Trisha out of the house. This woman dressed in white at the window. All of this stuff is getting connected. Chris gets up, the dogs start barking. Was there someone trying to get in the house, real or supernatural? And when Chris woke up and began to investigate, whatever it was left before it could get caught by a 6'4", 290-pound man, and set all of these events in motion. Now all the clues, all the events made sense except for one. Because they didn't realize it at first, but once they really started to look at the event of what happened that night, after the night of the auntie with the yah-yahs on her eyes, after it tried getting into Chris's house, after it walked through Robert's backyard and then got on all fours and leapt over the ditch, after that, the truck that was driving down Chris's driveway every night never returned. After the night that this bloody-eyed phantom tried to get Trisha, that truck and its occupants were never seen in that area again. So isn't that weird? See, this is what I love about this story. Robert, Maria, and Robert, thank you for sharing it with us. Just the story of the woman in white with the bloody eyes trying to get into the house or to get the child out of the house, that in and of itself is a terrifying paranormal story. Once you throw in the idea of the pickup truck having something to do with it, it stops being a simple paranormal story and becomes something else. What's interesting is that Robert's theory, Robert the Son's theory, is this was La Llorona, the very famous story in the American Southwest and in Mexico. I think it goes even further down. It might be a Central America thing as well. But it's the idea of the woman in white, who, this is a short version of it, the woman in white who drowned her kids in the river, and ever since then has been wailing, looking for the souls of her children, and if she can't find hers, she'll take yours. It's a story that has been around for a long, long time. You'll see variations of it in different parts of the world. A woman in white patrolling the waterways. A lot of times these stories are set up as cautionary tales to keep kids from playing around on the water, and definitely from going out to waterways late at night. Don't go out to the waterway, don't go down to the river, don't go down to the stream, because the ditch witch might get you. That's kind of a more slang term for her. I think it's a more Americanized, further up in the Southwest is the ditch witch. But it's the same setup. It's a cautionary tale, or is it actually a real phenomenon? What's interesting about the story of La Llorona is that she's all over the place geographically. You'd have to wonder, can she show up in two places at the exact same time? Is it a singular spirit, or is this a story that's just happened over and over and over again? It's a weird quirk. The psychology is basically that it's because they see them as a woman, a mother, a babysitter, a grandmother, whatever, sees that they have possession of the child is simply an object or an extension of them. They have ownership over them, and since they own this body, they can destroy it. The same way that you'll see adult men commit more domestic murders than women will. And part of it is due to strength as well, right? A standard man and a standard woman will have different strength levels, and an adult woman and a 2-year-old will definitely have different strength levels. But we do see that between the ages of 1 and 4, if you're murdered, it's far more likely you're murdered by a woman. Your mother, your babysitter, whatever, grandma. So the story of a woman drowning her kids in the river or the lake or even a ditch, that was something that Robert pointed out. He goes, the ditch itself is a waterway. It's not like a roaring river. But he goes, I think it might be La Llorona. You have the bloody visage. That's pretty common to the story as well. Bloody eyes, a bloody face, dressed in all white, around a waterway, targeting children. And that's definitely possible. That's who this is. I wonder if it's a singular entity. I think it would actually be a story that's been replicated over time. I mean, people throw cats into the river all the time. Killing something in the river is a way to kill something fairly quickly, fairly peacefully. It's quite brutal. But then also you are, in a way, purifying it. And I'm not saying this is true. I'm not saying you're like, oh, I was wondering what it's going to do with all of these victims down to the river. Jason said it's purifying. Sometimes killers will wash the body in a way it's purifying the victim. This person was evil. This person was a whore. This person had this darkness inside of them. Whatever psychology the killer has of why he chose that victim, why he sees that victim as evil or a whore or what have you. By purifying it in the river or a running body of water, generally, a lake probably would do as well. It's almost like you are then helping the soul even after you've killed the body. It has nothing to do with cleaning the evidence or really even disposing of the body so it won't be found. It's a ritualistic thing. This baby was born into an evil world, and I need to purge your body of that evil before I send you to heaven, so I'm going to drown you in a running river. These are all pretty normal things in serial killer or even just one-off killings. People will do these types of things. I don't think only one woman has done this, is what I'm getting at. I think La Llorona is probably a real phenomenon, but I do believe it's probably multiple women over time. I don't think there's just one of them, if that makes sense. Just the same way that I don't think there would be one Bloody Mary. We did that episode a long time on the origins of Bloody Mary. If Bloody Mary is real, which I'm more, I don't think Bloody Mary is. I'm sitting next to a giant mirror. I've already said it twice already. I don't necessarily think Bloody Mary is real or fake. I think that any entity could impersonate that. But there might have one point, I don't remember what the conclusion we came to on that episode, but at one point there probably were young girls who died in ways similar to Bloody Mary legends. Now I'm looking over my shoulder, honestly. Do those souls inhabit those places? I don't know. The La Llorona, though, it's probably multiple people over centuries who have done this act, definitely. And then some of them may become these spirits that walk these waterways. Same thing with, in America, the Phantom Hitchhiker. There's not just one Phantom Hitchhiker hitchhiking all over the world or all over the country. You'll find different variations, different people's spirits in different parts of different states. But let's go ahead, though. We'll wrap it up like this. What I find very interesting, again, the story itself of just a woman with bloody eyes trying to get into a house. It's very interesting, too, when Trisha described this auntie with yah-yahs on her eyes. Trisha didn't go. Also, it was 8 feet tall. It was the size of a bear, and I don't know for sure, but it looks like it could leap quite a ditch. I'm assuming when it appeared to Trisha, it was more human-shaped, more human in dimension, in size. But who knows, right? Kids are stupid, right? If you saw your auntie and she was 8 feet tall and she had these massive shoulders, you might go, "Auntie's here?" Because kids are dumb. But I don't think that would fool an adult. What I think is really interesting is the truck. If the story was just about the white figure in the backyard, I still would have loved to share it on the show. But the fact that you have the truck really sends it to a different level. They seem like they were connected to the phenomenon in one way or another. They really do. It showed up before. I don't know how many days it was actually appearing before, but definitely enough that people were noticing it. But it stopped the day after, right? That all happened one night. The pickup truck was in the driveway when this was going on. The stranger's truck, I don't know if it's a pickup truck, could be an SUV, but the stranger's truck was in the driveway. This was going on, and then it was never seen again. Was it connected to the hulking white figure? And what would be the connection? Were they investigating it? Was this almost like an episode of Supernatural or The X-Files where you have a group of paranormal investigators and they go, "We've had sightings of this thing. We predict it's going to be in this neighborhood next, but we don't know when. So let's just sit there and wait, see if our prediction is correct." And they were sitting in the driveway and they were waiting to see if this thing would show up, and it did. Were they just there to catalog the event, to write down this thing was sighted on this date in this location? Were they hunting it? Was it something even more aggressive than just simply investigating it? Were they tracking this creature down? Had it successfully gotten young children to open the door in various cities in the American Southwest? And here's a real-life Sam and Dean Winchester sitting in a driveway because they believe it's going to end up in this area sooner or later, and it did. And the reason why the truck wasn't seen again was because they were hot on its tail, trying to stop it. And this is why I ran the episode on Monday as a Retro Rabbit. Are cartels using cryptids to run drugs across the border? I mean, New Mexico, right? We're on a border state. Were the men in the car controlling it? Were they there to scope out the house ahead of time? They'd been driving through neighborhoods all over until they found a home that had a little girl in it. And then this entity, whether they are working for the entity as some sort of, what's the term? Dracula had a bunch of them. Basically like slaves, familiars. Deacon Frost had a bunch of them in Blade. It's basically humans that would work for you because you couldn't do a lot of it yourself. You're this spirit, you're this entity, you're this cryptid or creature. So you have humans do a lot of the legwork. Humans found a house that goes, "Oh, there's a little girl here. Look how adorable she is. She'd be perfect for the Ditch Witch." And they're like, "Don't call her the Ditch Witch to her face. She'll turn us into toads." But they are scoping out the neighborhood and they see this house with this adorable little girl, and then they contacted their boss, the Ditch Witch. They're like, "How do these people get paid, Jason? Do they have 401ks? No, they have 401 graves. Is what they call them." But anyways, I don't know. Well, okay, so they're basically scoping out the neighborhood, and I don't know if they're working for the Ditch Witch or they're controlling the Ditch Witch. They're controlling this creature, and its goal is to get kids out of houses, and then they kidnap the kids and sell them into slavery or harvest their organs or whatever horribleness you could possibly imagine, and most likely don't want to imagine. And that's why the car left, because their mission was finished. It wasn't complete. It was a failure, so they went on to the next neighborhood. I mean, those are obviously the more fantastical answers, and Robert and his family weren't suggesting any of that at all. That was my theories. They were investigating it, and they were just cataloging it, and then the truck left because the entity left. They were hunting it to kill it or contain it in some way, and they left because the entity left. Or you had a sinister group of humans who either work directly for this thing or they are controlling this thing. But either way, they are assistants to the terror that this creature brings. You go, Jason, I mean, yeah, that's really kind of interesting to make a good short story, but there are easier ways to kidnap a kid, right? You just snatch him right off the street. You don't have to have a goblin jump out of underneath your bed and promise them a magical adventure. If only they'd open the front door. Yeah, I know, but imagine if that's the way that this thing liked to do it. You know, a serial killer could just shoot you in the brain. I mean, you could probably be the best serial killer in the world if you just learned to use a high-powered rifle and just shot people from far away. But that's not what a serial killer wants to do, right? They want to tie you up. They want to feel your fear and your pain. You know, they want to drag it out. I mean, some serial killers, yeah, will just shoot you in the head, but it's more about that ritual, the lust that it ignites inside of them. If you gave Jeffrey Dahmer a shotgun, he's like, what? What am I going to do with it? I mean, I'm sure he'd figure out a few things, but his whole thing was about creating a sex slave, a lobotomized sex slave. The shotgun's not going to help with that. So is that the way that this creature wanted to do it, wanted to feed? It's a fascinating story, and there's no answer. And the two things could be completely unrelated. But I mean, if they are connected, it opens up a whole new host of possibilities. And listen, man, people driving around the country hunting these monsters, that would be dope. I love doing the podcast, but trust me, if I could get a job hunting creatures, you're like, Jason, you can barely walk around your house with the light off. Yeah, I know, but those guys always have flashlights. Sam and Dean, Mulder and Scully, they always got flashlights. I can be scared of the dark and still hunt monsters. But it'd probably be more difficult. You know, they're like, oh, your partner, he fell down this tunnel and there's no light. I'm like, sorry, partner. And then I leave and I'm like, did Ditch Witch have any job openings? I'm a really good hunter. I hunt monsters. That means I can also hunt victims. That'd be cool, right? That would be a cool possibility. People investigating this thing, I've said over and over on the show, I'm pretty sure the U.S. government investigates ghosts and demons the same way they investigate UFOs. They just don't talk about it because it would seem so foolish. But 100%, if the U.S. government really, I mean, how many people believe in ghosts, the paranormal, angels, and God, and all this stuff? It's like 70%. So you figure that 70% of any institution, organization outside of United Atheists Incorporated, they would believe in some form of this paranormal, and they'd go, why aren't we investigating whether or not ghosts are real? Why aren't we? Because then you would, if ghosts are real, can we contact them? Can we get information from them? Can we use them as spies or advisors? It'd be awfully nice to have the ghost of General George Washington help us in this war in Iran. George Washington's like, I don't know nothing about Iran. It didn't even exist. Wasn't it called something else? Persia or something when I was alive? But, yeah, I'm sure they investigate this stuff. But the idea of human hunters out there hunting these creatures, I mean, it's totally dope, right? Who wouldn't want to do that? But the idea of humans working for these creatures or using these creatures for their own ends, that's a whole other level of diabolicalness. You never really thought of a human getting a paycheck from the chupacabra. He's tired of sucking his own goats. Now he wants you to bring the goats to him. What's he paying you in goat pelts? You're like, oh, listen, man, I like this goat pelt jacket you made me, but I need to pay the rent, bro. The idea of humans working for these things or using them to commit horrible crimes is so bizarre that it seems totally made up. But maybe it's not. Maybe this story shows that there could be a relationship between the paranormal and man that we really hadn't considered before. Jason, you just ran an episode on Monday considering it. Yeah, but this is different because I never thought of them working for the monsters. I thought of them controlling create a werewolf and have it smuggle drugs over the border. That'd be reasonable, right? Like, what? Listen to that episode. Listen to the episode. But imagine working for a werewolf. Imagine if your boss was Bigfoot. Me need berries. Me need twigs. Me feet hurt. And you're like, I'm on it, boss. You're out running through the woods. You're collecting berries and twigs. And then you bring him back. And he's like, whoa, these good. Here. Here's your pay. And he hands you some gold. He goes, me steal that from Prospector 100 years ago. I'm also ancient. Did you know that? I'm Cain from the Bible. You're like, what? He's like, don't tell anybody. Here's some golden nuggets for you. Bigfoot not know how to make coin or have bank account, but me have gold. Like, what? My wife is a leprechaun. I married into wealth. Here's gold. Just bring me more berries and twigs. You're like, yes, sir. I'll bring you all the berries and twigs that you want. You end up deforesting the entire area just to make more gold. Who would have thought that you could get a job with a cryptid or a spirit? Like, Jason, nobody. Because that's clearly not what happened in this story. You're just making it up. Not even the participants of the story said anything about them, like, collecting a paycheck from the Ditch Witch. Well, I do think it's pretty crazy, and I never thought about it before. So, great story, Robert, Maria, and Robert. Thank you so much for sending it over. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm so glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys.
Are you noticing your car insurance rate creep up even without tickets or claims? You're not alone. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry handles the legwork by comparing quotes side by side from over 50 top insurers so you can confidently hit buy. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Jerry even tracks rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Don't settle for higher rates. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/libsyn today. That's jerry.ai/libsyn.